Hola, 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 hola. Ahí el cobra. A ver, a ver, a ver. Tiene subs. Que tiene subtítulos. Toma, por payaso.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in. Yes, really, really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it. At this point, Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy and reflected poorly on his overall personality. It's possible that this is why everyone left. But at last, he'd had enough of the amazing room and took the first open door on his left to get back to business.
Sí, pero es asqueroso el eco que hay con la voz, ese es el problema.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago.
Pues nada. No, sí. Oye, ¿ves el eco que hay?
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley left the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Igual lo que puedo hacer es que como tengo el micrófono en la mano, pero no lo puedo apagar, pero no va a tardar, o sea, va a ser muy jodido. O sea, tipo estoy hablando. La placa.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley went around touching every little thing in the office, but it didn't make a single difference, nor did it advance the story in any way. When Stanley came to a set of
La
two
derecha
doors, he entered
siempre
the door on his
es a la derecha. Siempre es mejor a la derecha. Es que no sé con cuál saltar. Ok. No hay botón para saltar. Hay esto que hace como sonido de teclado. Y hay estos dos botones para agacharse. Okay.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer
No, yo no
there.
quiero ir a esa oficina. Voy a seguir tocando todo lo que puedo. Don't know alter which cursor. Number de slides. No entiendo qué dice. Rate a which the same. No, ni puté.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished. His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all? None of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he
Acabas de cambiar la habitación atrás de la puerta.
These rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange, this can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming! He yelled. This is all a dream.
Estoy soñando.
To have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. He thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. Then he imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking? Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I'm dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd, and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that
No puedo, cabrón. No suena la alarma.
how could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too, surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment, and my wife, and my job. All I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay. Stanley began screaming. Please! My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black. This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy, this much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. Then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this, so it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the body. And then she turned and ran.
Ese fue el final. Ese fue el final. Incredible. Y si esta vez me quedo acá, no me voy. No me voy a ir. No, no me voy a ir. Yo no me voy a ir. Yup. Yo no me voy a ir, ya dije. Nope, 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 nope. Yo sí tengo que salir de acá, ¿verdad? Sí, más o menos puedo traducir un poco lo que hay ahí. Tampoco soy tan burro.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Exactamente. Wow, esquivazo.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago.
Wow, esquivazo.
Well, look who's got cold feet. Sorry to break it to you, Stanley, but that lift isn't coming back. You'd best either get comfortable right here on this platform, or test your luck by jumping to the floor below.
No.
You know what? Looking at it now, it's not that far to the bottom floor.
No.
I bet you can make it.
Déjame saltar, por acá puedo bajar. Pero no me deja.
Come on, I'm sure you'll survive the jump. Don't tell me you're scared. Whoops, looks like I was wrong. How clumsy of me.
Chingas a tu madre. Igual, y quiero ver también otra vez el video de José Jiménez, policía, pero no me puedo concentrar. Bueno, pausa, después sigo viendo. Voy a volver a hacer eso. Voy a seguir por el montacarga a ver qué tal. ¿Qué pasa?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. The lounge was sublime, a work of art. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first
Sí,
door on his
bueno,
left.
sí. No, esta vez sí voy a llegar hasta el otro lado.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't 5 years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here.
Sí,
I'm not
bueno.
really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be
¿A
difficult,
dónde me lleva?
but the fact is the
Ahí.
story has
¿No era
been
ahí?
about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you forgot. Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why? I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance. Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door.
Es que no me gusta, estoy muy seguro que se escucha con demasiado eco y no me gusta que ustedes, que vos y yo qué sé, no sé si Gonzalo se unió o no, escuchen eso. Voy o no voy. No, es que el rojo es de nena y es de gente mala, el azul es...
Perhaps you misunderstood. Stanley walked through the red door.
Ay, cabrón. No.
I still don't think we're communicating properly. Stanley walked through the red door.
Nope.
All right, fine. Go ahead, Stanley. You want to know so badly what's out there? You want to find out what lies at the end of this road? You've chosen well. Don't let me stop you.
Ok. No, mejor no, puta
There's
madre.
nothing here. I haven't even finished building this section of the map because you were never supposed to be here in the first place. Broken rooms, exposed developer textures. Is this what you had wanted? Was it worth ruining the entire story I had written out specifically for you? Do you not think I put a lot of time into that? Because I did. And in the end it was all for nothing. Because this is what you wanted to see.
Pero eso por, verdad, ¿eso por darle el eco o no? Me lo dices. ¿Es soportable el eco?
Stanley, help elucidate these strange and unknowable desires of yours. What would have made this game better? What did you want to see? Vehicles? Skill trees? Work with me, you've given me absolutely nothing so far. Tell you what, let me take a stab in the dark at a new design and you can give me some feedback. There we go. A third option. This already feels leaps ahead of where we were before. Go ahead, Stanley. Take it for a spin.
Ey, no, esto, ey, no, esto es una estafa. Ey, no, yo quería ir, no.
Okay, I'm going to stop you there. Now, tell me about your experience with this new version. Would you say that the game benefited from allowing you more choices? Feel free to be honest. I'm looking for some real critical feedback here. Oh, well, now this is useful. You didn't like it, but you didn't totally hate it either. You enjoyed it, perhaps is the correct term. It didn't cause you excruciating pain. Big steps we've made here today, Stanley. Here, based on the data from your previous playthrough, I've compiled a new version. And to be perfectly candid, I think I've knocked it out of the park with this one. Let's take a look.
Ya veo. Bueno, por acá supongo. Hijo de tu puta madre.
Would you say that competitive leaderboard helped you feel motivated to keep walking through doors? Again, honest answers, please. Hey, I nearly forgot. I've got a prototype of a new game I've been working on, and now would be a lovely opportunity to give it some playtesting. You wouldn't mind taking a look at it, would you?
No.
Let me boot it up.
Bueno. It's okay.
In this game, the baby crawls left towards danger. You click the button to move him back to the right, and if he reaches the fire, you fail. It's a very meaningful game, all about the desperation and tedium of endlessly confronting the demands of family life. I think the art world will really take notice. But of course, the message of the game only becomes clear once you've been playing it for about 4 hours. So why don't you give it 4 hours of play to make sure it's effective? Be sure to keep notes on your experience. You heartless bastard. Did you do it because you hate babies or purely to spite me? Because if it's the latter, well, I don't know what to do. I'm completely out of ideas. I can't think of a single thing that might improve the experience for me. I'm not even going to try. I'm out, I'm done. It's over. Thank you for playing. Your input was extremely valuable. Oh, hey, since my game was so awful, why don't we play someone else's game, just to ease the pain? Let's see. What do we have here? Yes, this seems like it'll work. Let's give it a shot.
Ah.
Aha, fascinating. What do you think?
Este juego yo conozco. Yo jugué esto.
What is our motivation? Well, it seems obvious to me that you are meant to play as a creepy man spying on innocent civilians below you from up high in your creep tower.
Espera, pausa. Este es el juego donde hay una tormenta y eso, ¿no? ¿O no? Yo sé.
For some sort of twisted, erotic purpose.
¿O no? Sí, este
Yes, that must be it. What a fascinating venture into the experience of total mental depravity. So far, I love everything about this game.
No, creo que me estoy
It
confundiendo.
seems there's even more. Come, let's venture outward and see what else is out there.
No, no quiero ese. Sí, creo que es este. Creo que sí, no sé. Pero bueno, sigamos.
No, it can't be.
¿Qué ahora?
It is. It's an open world game. Good God, quickly block it off. Oh, thank goodness Stanley wanted a close call. He really wandered off into that thing. That big open...
Chingas a tu madre.
No right or wrong directions. No path to follow. You can just go in any... Oh, thank heavens we avoided it.
Chingas a tu madre.
Okay, I'm going to get us out of here.
No.
Another game.
No.
Something with walls. Something with nice, big, insurmountable walls. Okay, I think this will be just the thing.
Que chinga su madre.
Wonderful. See, this is exactly what I had in mind. Just a nice big box for you to run around in. There isn't any possibility that you could get lost here. Now this is game design. Stanley, if you manage to get lost in this game, I will be phenomenally impressed. Okay, so what exactly do we do here? Let's see. There are lots of cars here in the back, but obviously there's no racetrack. Okay, I'm seeing that there's a ball of some kind back here. Is this game sports ball? Stanley, I think it's sports ball. Oh, what fun. We should run the bases and do a touchdown together. Yes, I think surely we must. Okay, Stanley, here's the ball. Have fun.
Algo tiene que haber. No pueden dejarme hacer esto nomás.
Are you doing it? Are you winning? Is this fun? Is it better than my miserable little story that I worked so hard on? Stanley, I have a thought, and I realize I'm not a sportsologist, but if one ball generates a certain amount of raw adrenal pleasure, then surely multiple balls makes for an even more euphoric sports experience. Hold on, what are you doing?
Ayuda. No sé qué pasó. Bueno, me fui a la mierda.
Stanley, don't do that. I can't follow you there. I can't help you. How will you write a story without me? You can't do it. You know that. Stanley.
Verga. Ah, no, está todo oscuro. A la concha de mi madre. No, nada. Allá hay luz. No me deja saltar. ¿Cómo salto? Quiero entrar ahí. Ah, bueno. No sé qué carajo tengo que hacer. Impossible.
I wonder what he found. If what he wanted was to be the leading man in his own story, well, perhaps he's gotten it. Down in wherever he is right now. I wonder if he's happy with his choice, and if he's learned the heavy cost that comes with it. He'll understand soon what I was trying to tell him. He needs me. Someone who will wrap everything up at the end, to make sense out of the chaos and the fear and the confusion. That's who I am. That is what I mean to this world. Oh, yes. Yes, I'll be back. There's no other way. Once this ends, after it all comes to a close, then I'll be back. The end will be here soon. Very soon. I can wait.
Tengo que resetear, ¿verdad? No. Ah. Ya uno se empieza a marear. Chingas a tu madre.
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Ay, cabrón. Ya veo. Como que esto se está tardando, ¿no? Muy bien. Uy. Chingas a tu madre. Pues acá me quedo, voy a ver todo un video de José Jiménez mientras. ¿Ya? ¡Chingas a tu madre!
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this, what dark secret was being held from him. What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway. Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Okay.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word Escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death.
Se me hace que mejores por acá.
Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live for. Nope, still on board with death?
Es que tampoco quiero morir. Nah, eso. Ahí ya puedo ver todo lo que es la habitación. Aunque hasta ahora le seguí el paso a pie y letra.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
No, era mejor por allá. Tenía razón el tipo, lamentablemente. Qué cosas, ¿no? De así de la vida.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
¿Qué carajos?
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers, the lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
No sé qué debería de estar haciendo. Para por acá. Qué inutilidad, che.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for. Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Stanley, I help Lord Red, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go. Turn the controls off and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are set to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going. What all this means.
Voy a tocar los botones que no son números.
What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated. All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened.
Ah, 5.
I turned off the machine to set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone burned to a crisp. I have to say this, though. This version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. but I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even
No
better.
enciende.
My goodness, only 34 seconds left.
No.
I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock. Why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. Time doesn't grow on the trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that time that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones, or maybe this big red button.
No hay
or this
5.
door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley?
No hay ni un puto 5.
Be beaten? One solved?
No.
What your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of
Se abrió esto. ¿Cómo soy ciego?
for every
Corre.
moment you're powerless.
Puta madre, ahí está el último.
This is not a
No.
It's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first.
¿Qué?
So you
Hay más mierda allá arriba.
take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending. Just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life? Or
No
will
hay
you
ni
let
un
it go?
puto 5. El verde tiene como 5 la redonda. Ah.
Make it count. Or don't. It's all the same.
Aquí hay algo.
All a part of the joke. And believe me,
Ya toqué los 5, cabrones.
of your inevitable life from the moment we played in until the moment I say,
¡Oh, madre!